Hello Exiles, and today I'm going to be giving you some news updates that's come from the Jonathan interview from the Korean interview that happened early this morning. Now, I couldn't sleep and I watched the entire interview and managed to pull some good information, which we're going to run through in a minute. Before we get there, just to let you know, I am going to be streaming live on Twitch next week. The link is in the description. I would greatly appreciate it if you would join me. And if you want to watch me on YouTube instead, which I will also be streaming on YouTube, then throw us a subscribe and you will get a notification when I go live. And finally, if you are wanting to win an early access key for the early access on Friday, then I will be holding a draw on Thursday. The video for this is in the description below. So once you finish this video, if you want to go and join in and you want to try and compete with everyone else, then go and watch that video and good luck. With that being said, let's jump into this. So the interview that happened early this morning was quite fun. Obviously, the Korean interview involved quite a bit of translation, so there is probably only around about 20 to 25 questions asked, as quite a bit of the time is the Korean translator going back and forth. However, the information that we did manage to obtain from this was quite crucial, and I'm going to go through those with you now. So the first piece of information that he did confirm is that melee is very strong, and when you compare melee to ranged, you do definitely get the payoff when you go into melee range with a melee character. He then does go on to discuss, obviously in the next question, in regards to dodging skills, that it is easier to dodge skills when you are within melee range rather than ranged characters. And he did bring up an example when a boss does an arc fire attack. If you are right next to the boss, then you can just roll behind him and you will avoid the entire arc. Whereas if you are a ranged character, then you are smack bang in the middle of this arc ability. You are either going to have to roll towards him, roll to the sides, or roll backwards to get out of range. And he said so it is technically a lot more difficult to dodge skills and abilities from bosses when you are playing as a ranged character. The next thing he does discuss is that there is going to be a new MTX shop in Path of Exile 2, where you will be able to try before you buy any MTX. So you'll be able to see it on your character prior to buying, and you will have a close-up of inspection of the character before you actually buy. That is going to be a massive improvement, because the amount of people that I see that will usually look at an ability, they'll buy it, or they'll look at some sort of skin, they'll buy it, and then it doesn't look any good because they've not seen what it looks like on their specific character. So having this integration into the shop is going to be very, very nice. The next thing Jonathan discussed is that a lore book is something that he is very keen to add into the game, not on early access, but in the future. If somebody wants to read something about the lore, then he is wanting something within game to be able to describe that and exactly what happened, with a bit of a detail and a bit of a story and maybe some imagery to go along with it. That is something that he is looking to potentially add in the future, but not for quite some time. But for any of you lore fanatics out there, that will be very good in terms of helping you understand everything. He was then asked in regards to the amount of third-party application softwares that Path of Exile needs, and says, does Path of Exile 2 minimize this as much as possible? And he does say that they have tried to provide as much information as possible in-game to try and minimize the amount of third-party software that you do need to use. However, I still feel that we are going to be using path of building, loot filters, all them with the likes, price checking tools. However, he does go on to say that he is never going to be able to compete with what POB does and what it provides, just because he is never going to go down that route of being able to provide that much information. And he was quite solid and concrete on this fact. He was then asked about a potential dot cap and whether we would be able to go beyond a dot cap in Path of Exile 2, and if anything, he needed to do a dev check because he didn't actually know. But he did say that potentially the only reason why we had a dot cap in POE1 was based on the actual specifics of how the game works, and he feels that in Path of Exile 2 we shouldn't have to worry about that because of the way that the game is built. There is no integers that obviously will stop you, so potentially there will now no longer be a dot cap of like 36 million on the dot cap for poison and ignite and all the other dot skills. But the question still remains, are we going to be hitting these sorts of DPS values in Path of Exile 2, or are they going to be much, much lower? We will not know until we kind of see POB and be able to put these figures into some sort of monetary value. Then we will not be able to know exactly what sort of DPS figures we are going to be kicking out in Path of Exile 2. He then also does discuss the fact of the mounts. Now, he did say that we do currently have one rower mount at the moment, and he does have plans to add more mounts in the future, and he did also mention that he was looking to add some form of melee mount that would be an option, but they have just not designed it yet. Now, to think about that, some sort of melee mount, so to be able to bonk people and do some sort of slams while you're riding a mount, I could not think what type of creature that would be, but I feel that it would have to be a form of small and low to the ground mount that would still do a bit of damage and potentially would still move quicker for you to be a benefit towards you, but that you could still do your skills. That is something that is coming in the future, but he said that they've just not designed anything regarding it yet, so you're just going to have to wait and see. A bit of bad news now, he does state that guilds are currently not in POE2 and that they have not been combined currently. So currently there is no guilds options in Path of Exile 2, so if you have any guild MTX apologies, then they are not going to be able to be transferred across. Whether there is going to be future support for it, I would greatly assume that there would be, but just not for the start of early access. Mageblood is the next one. He does discuss Mageblood, and he was talking about uniques, and he sadly says that currently that there is no Mageblood equivalent in Path of Exile 2, but he does state that there are quite a few uniques that are very good, and we should be happy with the uniques that we have added in. Now, there was a few people that we were talking to the other day in Discord, and I actually designed the new Mageblood in my head straight away, and I said the only way that you could replace Mageblood right now, with the fact that the utility system has gone completely gone in terms of the flasks, is have a belt that applies all charms at the same time. So if you have a bleed, a freeze, and a poison charm running, there should be some sort of modifier that says that you cannot activate them. However, they are permanently turned on, or they are permanently active at all times. That, I feel, is a potential option, but I don't feel it's going to be as powerful as Mageblood is in Path of Exile 1. The next one, Jonathan did confirm that the Mirror of Kalandra is going to be in Path of Exile 2, which was kind of a given. However, he did also then go on to state that Jonathan has never had a real mirror drop in all of the years that he has been playing the game. He does tell a little bit of a joke to say that he did try something with trying to do some testing with some cheats activated, and then he did magically get one to drop, but he feels that that was linked to the actual cheats. He has never had a real mirror drop in the game in playing. Carrying on, he then does discuss the Pinnacle uniques, and he does state that the brand new Pinnacle uniques that are in the game are gated behind the Pinnacle bosses, and he feels that these uniques are uniques that everybody will be wanting. They are what's called must-have uniques. Now, the question is, what are these uniques? I am very curious to see what they are, and I'm sure give it by the end of day 3, day 4, day 5, we potentially may start to see them dropping on Reddit or potentially on the search website for the trade site. We're just going to have to wait and see. Regarding updates to early access, he does state that we should expect updates in regards to the early access to be similar to a POE1 update when they do league updates, where they will be adding new content, new materials, new skills, new content, new characters, all that type of good stuff. It's a case of when they're going to be adding it. He said he's looking to do it every couple of months. So potentially, I would say we have until the end of January to be able to play Path of Exile 2 before they do the launch for the POE1 new league, and then I feel that they potentially may be adding in the Druid or the Huntress, and I feel that they may then add in a bunch more new skill gems and things like that. So we have a solid 2 months to play, guys, so make the most of it and try and get as much gear and as much gameplay as possible before they then change the system. And finally, he does go on to state, one guy asked in the audience, has there been any times when Path of Exile GGG development team has had to do some ninja/stealth nerfs and they have not communicated this to the community? He does laugh about this, and he does say that he feels that there may have been a couple of cases where things did need to be tweaked, but overall, he does state they do like to be transparent and tell everybody about what they are trying to do on particular skills and changes, but he feels that there may have been a couple of cases where certain things may have needed to be tweaked and they weren't told. And that is basically it, guys. Just thought I'd run through them all very quickly. There was nothing visually to show you because it was all done in the video itself, but that is basically all of the news that came from that Korean interview. I hope that that has kind of got you a little bit more excited for Path of Exile 2. And until the next video, guys, thank you for watching and stay sane.